Reading with your kids.
Hola, ni hao, konnichiwa, assalamu alaikum, shalom, mahaba, moli moli wanji, namaste, jambo, bienvenidos. Hi, my name is Jedley, and this is the Reading with Your Kids podcast. We are coming to you from the beautiful neighborhood of Reedville in the southwest corner of Boston, Massachusetts. We're so very delighted that you are joining us in our mission to help families grow closer through reading. Please be sure to subscribe to the show on the iHeartRadio app, on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon Music, wherever you find your podcast. We have two great guests for you today. First, Tashay Mason is returning to tell us all about It's Okay to Be Happy. And a little later on, Leslie Wall will be here to tell us about some great Thanksgiving reads we can share with our teens and tweens. Before our guests join us, I want to let you know that this episode of the Reading with Your Kids podcast is brought to you by the books by Sean P.B. Robinson, especially Jerry the Squirrel. What a great series, Jerry the Squirrel. He's really good at inventing all sorts of great things, but he's not so great at making sure those inventions do what they're supposed to do. And you know, all sorts of mayhem and fun follow. You and your kids are just going to laugh yourself silly as you watch Jerry the Squirrel turn his nut harvester into a nut cannon, and his earplugs turn into megaphones, and his automatic slippers turn on every squirrel in the village. You really are going to love Jerry the Squirrel, which is one of the many books from our friend Sean P.B. Robinson. You can learn all about Sean by going to his website, SeanPBRobinson.com. Join us right now from the great state of Texas. Our guest is returning to the show to celebrate another beautiful picture book in her series. The name of the new book is It's Okay to Be Happy. Please welcome back to the show, Tashay Mason. Hey, Tashay, how are you?
I'm great. Thank you, Jed, for having me back. I appreciate it.
I'm so excited to have you back. Tashay, I have something special to tell you.
Okay.
Our Certified Great Read panel has finished their review of It's Okay to Be Happy, and it has been named a Certified Great Read. Congratulations.
Thank you. Love it, love it, love it.
We don't often have a chance to tell somebody live for the first time when their book has been named a Certified Great Read, but today we had that opportunity, so I thought I would take it. So congratulations. It's a great achievement.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I greatly appreciate it.
Yeah. So tell us all about It's Okay to Be Happy.
So the book is a sequel to But I Don't Want to Say Goodbye. It's part of A Child's Journey Through Grief series, which is part of a three-book series. And we continue to follow the little girl from the first book as she continues to process her grief over the death of her father and just trying to navigate through life the best way she can with the help of family and friends. And within that book, there is discussion about grief support group for children, because sometimes, you know, kids, they have their parents, they have family members they can speak with, but sometimes it's a little bit better to speak with someone their own age that can really understand what they're going through, especially if they have loss of a parent themselves. And they could talk about those emotions and what they're confused about and everything with their peers. In addition to that, there's different activities in the book to remember her father, like her and her mother creates a memory book, which is a great way to not only have time with your family, but also create something new. Get some of those photographs. You know, I know we're in a digital age, but sometimes having a hard copy book, printing out some of those pictures can kind of help, you know, when you want to just go and just flip through a book and see those wonderful memories that you had. In addition to that, in the book, it talks about, you know, having therapy with animals. So the little girl goes to her cousin's ranch and ride horses and everything. So, and for those that are connected with animals, this is another great way to work on dealing with grief. And different people have dogs, cats, iguanas, ponies, horses. And I thought it was befitting to add a horse in there because when I was going through grief over the death of my father when I was young, I was introduced to riding horses. And I'll never forget the name of the horse in the book is Star, which was the horse I rode when I was a kid. So I learned how to ride horses, learned how to take care of them. I even barrel raced in a couple of rodeos. So that was a lot of fun. But I remember looking back was like, I didn't realize at the time it was therapeutic for me, but it was. It helped me during those times that I was feeling sad and everything. And Star was so receptive to me and very kind, a very kind horse. So I wanted to put that emphasis in there. And even talking about going back into the memories, talk about, what happened before, like when Cousin Jenny talks about how he met the little girl's mom. And if you read in the first book, I never mentioned her name. As a matter of fact, the only one that had a name in the first book was Bella the dog. So in this book, I decided to go ahead and introduce her name. In the first one, I wanted everyone to just really connect with the family. You don't have to know the name, just being able to connect with them. In this one, you're learning a little bit more about her and what she does. And in the setting of group therapy, you hear from when it comes to dealing with their grief. And sometimes, even as adults, when we're dealing with death, sometimes we're angry, sometimes we're sad. There are moments where we're happy, and we often wonder, is that okay? Is it okay to move on? Is it okay to be happy? So going through this book and looking at the various activities this little girl goes through as she's working through processing her grief, it's that miss your loved one. Yes, she misses her father, but it's okay to be happy as well. So, I want this to be a very, as the first book, a great discussion point for families. Have those moments where you can laugh about a story that happened. If you can share a great time, hey, when we went to the park, I remember Dad made this funny joke and everything. So it's just the thing of trying to really get a grasp of how do we move forward? Because, you're trying to navigate through life without that person being there.
Tashay, I think that anybody who is old enough to have been around back on 9/11 remembers the feeling that a lot of us had in the weeks following that tragedy, asking ourselves, is it okay for us to laugh again? This was such a major tragedy. When can we laugh again? Can we ever laugh? Can we ever be happy again? And it is important for us all to understand that we have to be happy. We're supposed to be. We do need to move on. And being able to move on and carry on with our lives is a way to honor the people that have left us, the people that we love.
Right. And it doesn't mean that you have forgotten them. Mm-hmm. It doesn't mean that, that you're disrespecting their memory, because we like to believe that our loved ones would want us to continue on. So, sometimes that sense of guilt of, oh my gosh, I'm laughing, I'm having a great time. Why am I not, feeling sad in this moment? Because those moments come and go throughout life. There may be something on TV that may trigger you. You may see on TV a family gathering, and that may trigger, someone to feel like, oh my gosh, made me think about my dad or my mom that's no longer here, or my grandma or sister or brother. So sometimes there's a struggle of, should I really be moving forward? And is it really okay to do that? So I want to tackle that from the child's perspective because, you see parents say, hey, parents still got to go to work. You have to provide and everything. And sometimes may get that false sense of I need to be strong too. But it's important to be able to have those conversations, to have different activities. And even if it's something that loved one that passed on, they had something that they enjoyed to do, let's do that. Mm-hmm. In the book, the mom fixes the dad's favorite meal, and they have that meal together. They celebrate his birthday. And even though it brings about a sad time because it's like he's not here, but you know what? We can still remember him, and that can make us smile about the memories that we've had with him.
Yeah. You use the word trigger, and that has such a negative connotation these days. Mm-hmm. And, of course, we don't want to do something that's going to trigger an overwhelming traumatic emotion in people and send them into a really bad place. But sometimes, sitting down and being reminded of a loved one, even if it makes us shed a tear, that's not necessarily a bad thing. That's a pretty wonderful way to remember how much this person meant to me. And I do still miss this person, and it's making me cry, but it's okay because it's a reminder to us that that person is still alive inside our hearts, that love hasn't died.
Absolutely. And the key word you said there was love. When you love someone and they're no longer here, you miss them. Of course, it's okay to have those emotions. I've heard some people say bad emotions. I don't believe there's a such thing as bad emotions. We're all human. We go through various emotions at various times and everything. Now, how we manage it is a different thing. But every emotion is perfectly normal. It's okay to be angry. It's okay to be sad. It's okay to be happy. It's okay. I think sometimes we get caught up in the concept of, this person is crying, upset. I don't want you to feel that way, but it's okay if that's what you have to do to release that. And if that's what you're feeling in that moment, it's okay to be there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think sometimes when we're seeing somebody crying, when we see somebody be uncomfortable, we don't want them necessarily to stop for their sake. It's like, can you stop that? Because it's making me feel bad.
Yes. And sometimes it is like that because it's like they don't know what to say in that moment.
Right.
It's like, well, what do I say? But sometimes I think the best thing is you don't have to say anything. Mm-hmm. You can just sit right there. And while if they're crying or if they're talking, they're getting it out. Sometimes we feel like we have to have the answers. And a lot of times we don't. And that's okay too. And in the book, there is a dream sequence where the little girl does see her dad, and she's asking these questions. Why did you die? It's not fair, But the questions are never answered because we don't know why. Mm-hmm. But guess what? It's okay to miss that person. It's okay to feel sad at times. It's okay, because as going through life, as this little girl gets older, she's going to deal with those emotions again as a teenager, as a young adult, when those different milestones come up, graduation, birthday parties. And it's like that time is missed. Mm-hmm. I remember seeing kids at school with their dads, and I would get angry. One moment I'm just angry, like, well, this is not fair. My dad's not here. But the thing is to explore those feelings and understand that it is okay to have those. And it's also okay to be happy, and being able to navigate through that grief and being able to try to live the best life you can, Mm-hmm.
I don't want to put words in your mouth, but I think you'd agree with me, Tasha, that, if there's a parent out there and they're thinking to themselves, I really don't want to deal with this. I know my kid it's hard, but maybe if we just don't talk about it for a while, it'll just blow away. And I want to tell them that it's okay to feel nervous and feel bad and not want to do this, but it's really important that you do talk with your kids about it.
You're absolutely correct. And it's going to hurt. I remember my mom, when she had to tell me that my dad died. Now, as a kid, I wasn't thinking about how she felt. I was thinking about how I felt. But as an adult, when we had the conversations, she was hurting too. That was her friend. That was, the love of her life. And even though they weren't together, she still loved him. But the thing was, she was grieving not only the loss of her friend, but also for her daughter that lost her father. So, no, it's not easy, and it's a process, but it's very important because that child needs to know that even though that parent is hurting, look at the effort that's being put forth to, hey, we got to talk about it. Come on, let's sit here. Or if we just got to cry, if that's all we're going to do, then let's do that. But we need to talk about it from time to time. I need to see how you're feeling. Even at times when, if the child is, getting angry or lashing out, sometimes it's not necessarily about what they did. It's about how they were feeling, what caused them to lead to whatever it was that they did. And sometimes it goes back to, I'm feeling angry. I want to do something that maybe I don't normally do, and, lash out. So it's a challenge. And my mom was telling me how much of a challenge it was to sit down with me, but she knew that it was important. So even though she was grieving, it was, she wanted to make sure I was able to express my feelings. And even though I was the type of child that didn't want to do that, so she was very persistent with me. There are support groups out there today where if children like myself are not really comfortable sharing with the parent, yet, but there are support groups with other children that maybe they can feel more comfortable and get to a point where, okay, I want to talk about that with Ronnie, and so it's very important that, parents, and I'm not saying parents should shut down their grief because they shouldn't, but express to that child, you know what, I'm hurting too. Let's sit down and talk about it. Yeah. And hopefully these books, A Child's Journey Through Grief series can help facilitate that conversation. I'm in the process of writing the third and final book, which is Let's Celebrate to Be Happy, which talks about celebrating holidays and events without the loved one being there. So we're going to follow this little girl's journey into this and seeing how she and her family are able to move forward by celebrating those different milestones.
Yeah. It's obvious that, It's Okay to Be Happy is a great book for a kid, for a family that is directly experiencing grief. But I also think It's Okay to Be Happy is a great book for kids who aren't experiencing grief at the moment to read, because maybe, one of their classmates has experienced the loss, and then, it's a month later and their kids are coming in and now they're back laughing and playing in the playground. I'm imagining some kids might be confused and thinking, why is Sally so happy? 'Cause her dad just died. She should. And this is a way for a parent to sit down with those kids and just explain that life moves on. There's a process and everybody's a little bit different. And again, just talk about that, because as hard as it is for a kid who's directly experiencing grief, it's hard for the kids around them, too, to understand. It's important to talk to those kids, too.
Absolutely, because some kids may have not experienced that yet. And they may see that their friend on the playground and they seem happy. And then maybe a few later, they don't want to talk to anyone. So, yes, it's very important for those kids that don't quite understand what grief is, because grief, like you said, grief is different from everyone. Sometimes people laugh, they smile all the time, but that doesn't necessarily mean that they're not hurting. Mm-hmm. That's just a way for them to help them get through the day. Sometimes they may not want to show their emotions in public. Maybe when they're at home, they want to cry. So helping children understand that grief comes in various ways and that it's not always in the same place. A person may not always be angry and may not always be sad and may not always be happy. They may interchange, and you may get confused because you're thinking, well, you're happy one minute, but you're sad the next, So helping those children understand that that their friend or someone that they know whose loved one died, those emotions won't stay the same. And that's a challenge, and even for adults, we wonder, well, shouldn't you still be sad, or, but the thing is, everybody grieves differently. Everyone is different in their own way in that.
Absolutely. Well, I know people are going to want to know more about It's Okay to Be Happy and about your entire series. Where can they go online?
They can go to my website, TashaMason.com. They can also follow me on Twitter at Tasha Mason, or they can go to Instagram, Belle Shea House, or my Facebook page, Belle Shea House. But my website breaks down each book. Like I said, the third book is in the process of being written, and hopefully we'll have that out in the spring of 2022. So if they want to go there, go to their website. If they want to purchase the book, it's on Amazon right now. And if they have any additional questions, my email address is on the website. They can reach out to me.
Awesome. We've had a great time speaking to the author of It's Okay to Be Happy, our latest Reading with Your Kids certified great read, Tasha Mason. Hey, Tasha, thanks so much for being with us.
Thank you so much for having me.
Before Leslie Wall joins us to share some great books that we can read with our teens and tweens as Thanksgiving approaches, we want to encourage you to connect with us on social media, facebook.com/readingwithyourkids, at Reading With Your Kids on Instagram, and at Jedley Magic on Twitter. Joining us again from the beautiful state of Colorado, our guest today is returning to the show to share with us some great suggestions, some great books that we can read with our older kids around Thanksgiving. Please welcome back to the show, Leslie Wall. Hey, Leslie, how are you?
Great. Thanks so much for having me again. This is so fun.
I'm really happy to have you on. You've shared so many great suggestions for books that we can read with our kids of all ages, and that's what we're all about. And a lot of the books that you have suggested have had a faith base to them, and we love that because, reading is a great way. It not only helps our kids develop empathy and language and the ability to read, but it also helps us share our values and our faith with our kids.
Yeah, I just love sharing these books that I read, and I enjoy them so much, and I just want to share them with other families. So I like this opportunity. It's great.
Yeah. So today we're focusing on books that are great for the Thanksgiving season. I don't know about you, Leslie, but Thanksgiving is one of my favorite holidays because I think it embodies the faith that we both share. Leslie and I are both Catholics. And I think the whole idea about being grateful and living gratefully and reaching out and sharing that love with others, I think that's what our faith should be about if it's not already.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's always been one of my favorite holidays too. Just that's family time and being together and thankful for things. Yeah, because no matter what situation, there's things you can be thankful for. So it's a wonderful time to think about those things.
Now, today we're talking about books that we can read with our older kids. Are we talking middle grade or our teens?
Yeah, both. I have one for middle grade. The second one could be for either. And then the older teens, I have one too.
Super. Okay. What's the first book?
Okay. So the first one is called Anything But Groovy by Amanda Lauer. I think she's been on your show before. I don't know if she talked about this one or not, but it's a fun contemporary coming of age story with a kind of a Freaky Friday vibe to it. So it's the story of a modern young teen girl, and she's about to start her 7th grade year. And she's frustrated because, she thinks her mom doesn't understand how difficult it is to be a middle schooler. So at volleyball practice the night before her first day of school, she falls and hits her head really hard. And in the morning, it takes her a while to realize it, but she wakes up in her mom's 7th grade body. And she ends up having to live her mom's entire 7th grade year experiencing all the joys of the 1970s, as well as her mom's friendships and having to deal with the bully her mom had. So while there's not really a lot of action in this book, it's a great one, I think, for parents and kids to read together. There are so many fun 1970s elements that the adults will enjoy reliving their own childhoods. But it also highlights the fact that no matter what era we grow up in, there's certain issues that all teens have to deal with: families, friendships, bullying. And, while our technology and the circumstances change, the relationship fundamentals really remain the same. Mm-hmm. And I thought this glimpse into a parent's childhood is a clever way for that old theme of walking in a mile in someone's shoes, And so the main character, she learns a lot through this experience and becomes very grateful and thankful for her own life, and then gains a new appreciation and understanding for her mom. And like I said, I think this is a great one for teens and parents to read together, because you can have so many opportunities to share the differences and similarities of your own childhood.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. I don't know about you, Leslie, but I have to tell you, when I look back, Halloween, we just had Halloween, and there are a number of people who came dressed in a costume that was very similar to what I wore in high school. I wasn't crazy about that.
I still remember those weird plasticky masks we'd have and stuff. So.
I thought you were going to talk about the weird plasticky platform shoes that I wore in high school.
Oh, well, there's those too. Yeah.
Awesome. So what's the next book?
Okay, so the next one is called Mary's Son by Daryl Nisnick. I guess it's Nyznyk. And it's a perfect one for middle school and older kids. And it's a fantasy tale set at Christmas time. So getting ready for the holiday season here. And it actually combines Jesus and Santa, which may sound a little odd, but it's a sweet story with this really neat message. So it has an old-fashioned feel to it a little bit. It's modern, but it kind of reminded me of Miracle on 34th Street, which is one of my favorite holiday movies, so maybe that's why I enjoyed the book so much. But it revolves around an older gentleman named Nicholas, who has powers that are given to him by God, and he's able to show two teens from opposite sides of town the real meaning of Christmas. So there's spoiled and selfish Sarah, who's the only child of the wealthiest widower in town, and then angry and defensive Jared, who's the oldest child of a very poor family, who's still reeling from the abandonment of their father. So both teens are heading down a very destructive path in their lives, and Nicholas arrives and takes them on this journey, one they won't forget, and one that reveals the true meaning of Christmas. And their lives are changed forever, and they become really thankful for who they are, their life circumstances, and they realize that other people, no matter what we're going through, there's people having more problems and more difficulties. So it's a neat way to think about what others are dealing with, which I think always makes for us being more thankful.
Absolutely, absolutely. And there's one more in your list.
Yes, it's called Angelhood by Aj Catapan. And now this is, it's for older teens. It's a captivating story, but it's about a difficult subject matter, teen suicide. So if a family is touched by that, this might not be a great one for them, because that can bring up too many difficulties. But despite the sensitive topic, she does an amazing job of this uplifting book with an intriguing twist to it. And it kind of reminds me of It's a Wonderful Life. Mm-hmm. So it makes the person think about what they would be missing out on and who would be missing them if they weren't around. So the lead character has had some difficulties, and so she's really relatable, and we can understand the pain she's had in her life, but she learns throughout it kind of how to deal with it in a positive way. and again becomes thankful for what she does have and all those that are in her life. So it's a more difficult one, but it's very beautifully written and has some great conversation pieces to it for reading together.
And, it is a difficult subject, but I think I think the more difficult a subject is, the more important it is we talk to our kids about it.
Right, because they don't go away, and they need to know, how you feel about them, and you can give them resources and so forth. Because sometimes kids, especially when such a difficult thing they think about, or if it affects their life, they don't really know how to deal with it.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Leslie, you are the author of some fantastic books. Where can folks go to find out about your books?
Sure. 2 places. You can visit my website, which is lesliewall.com, or I am part of a group of authors, and we're at catholicteenbooks.com.
We've had a great time discovering some great books that we can read with our older kids around Thanksgiving. Our guest has been Leslie Wall. Hey, Leslie, thanks so much for being back with us.
Thanks so much, and happy Thanksgiving.
Please be sure to join us for the next episode of the Reading with Your Kids podcast. It's another episode of Reading with Your Kids Rewind. We're going to be looking back at some great conversations we had with authors of historical biographies. That's the next episode of the Reading with Your Kids podcast. I want to thank the folks who made today's show so wonderful. Of course, I want to thank our guest, Tashay Mason. Please be sure to check out It's Okay to Be Happy. And I also want to thank our guest, Leslie Wall, for sharing those great suggestions for Thanksgiving reads. I want to thank our sponsor, Sean P.B. Robinson. Be sure to check out Jerry the Squirrel. I also want to thank my team, Alejandro Doherty, Fatima Khan, Michael Murphy, Rory Grady. I want to thank my beautiful wife for all the support she gives me. Most of all, we all want to thank you. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us today. And as always, thank you so very much for taking the time to make the world a better place by reading with your kids. I'll be looking for you in the next edition of the Reading with Your Kids podcast.